the total number?
There was 64.
64 have we got? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, 64.
Right. What we're going to do this evening is hopefully have a presentation by Tracy and Kath.
Remember when I want to listen to radio with earphones don't work.
I will ask people to mute their microphones, please, because I did hear that comment.
That's a shame.
It wasn't one that I would want to hear. So if you'd mute your mics, unless you're definitely going to talk. I can only see 25 people on my screen. So if you do want to speak, then you may have to raise the hand that is available to you in reactions, I think it is now, or alternatively, send something through chat. After we've had the presentation, we're going to have a short statement by Mark Roseberry about some groundwork that's been taking place recently. And then we'll be into questions and answers. At the moment, I have received 4 questions, not too long, fortunately. So hopefully we can be finished by about 8:30, and we can all go off and do what we want to do in the evening. So I am recording from now on. Kath, would you like to state, or is it Tracy?
I will share my screen, and I think Tracy will kick off. Bear with me one moment.
Ta-da! Well, good evening, everyone. Lovely to see you. Nice start to the new year. It's been fantastic the last weekend. Absolutely fantastic. Utterly brilliant. Loved it. But we're going to give you a short resume of what's live and happening now and the financial update for last year. But first of all, we are going to kick off with Mike on the absolutely amazing news about the Buckley Wells planning application. So, Mike, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Tracy. For those who didn't pick it up on Hops, I did send a note out. This is a personal view, but I think it's a huge vote of confidence getting permission with regard to the Buckley Wells development. Some of you may be surprised. It's been about 4 years in the making, with lots of work behind the scenes that will probably never be seen. The end product is there was a unanimous approval from the Bury Planning Committee. Some of you may have seen my 3-minute speech support of the application. And then inevitably the question swings across to, well, where's the money coming from? 4 years ago as well, we've never had that kind of permission before, so how are we ever going to achieve it? So I think it's in steps really, and I think the 12 million figure is a headline figure, best estimates at this stage, but we need to chunk those figures up really. So phase 1 is definitely going to be, as far as construction phase is concerned, is the diner shed, the garage storage shed, and a new garage and wagon workshop. That will be the first phase, and possibly somewhere between 2 and 4 million, depending whether we do some of the work or it all goes out to a contractor. Part of that, of course, is new access road, new site layout. There's a lot of storage stuff to be removed, so there's a lot of work to do. Even if we had the 4 million today, there's a lot of preliminary work to do. Obviously, there's drainage, there's power. All those things will take time to work up. I'm setting up a funding group. I've got a meeting tomorrow on it, and also a construction group, and we're hoping to get some support from a local civil engineering company to help us plan that work. Phase 2 is clearly the Barron Street workshops, which are in need of a full restoration. I think just replacing slates and fixing gutters will not work anymore. We've had a very full and detailed survey of the building, including bats and pigeons and goodness knows what else. That will be a bid for the HLF fund, the Heritage Lottery Fund, and I'm hoping to do that in partnership with Bury Council. So that perhaps be a 2 to 3 year project just to, establish a bid and then see what HLF make of it. So that is certainly a mid-term aspiration. Then a long-term aspiration is phase 3, which is new steam running shed in the original location where the sheds used to be. I would say if we secure that, that would be the real icing on the cake. I think for practical purposes, phases 1 and 2 is where my focus will be over the medium to long term. Been asked also questions about, well, where does that leave the Rosendale commuter line? I think it makes it more difficult for a commuter line and the route, because the route's gone now. The route was to be where the sheds are, and the request from Rosendale was to move the sheds 5 meters to the east, which we said that couldn't happen. What I would say is they've got, with taxpayers' money to spend on a new strategic business outline case to be submitted to the Department of Transport by September. I guess they'll carry on and do that. It's a matter for Rosendale now to decide how they want to proceed, and I'm sure they will do that. What I would caution against is I don't believe this will be the end of the Rosendale situation. I think we could still be talking about this in many years to come. We've got no ability, no power to stop this work by Rosendale. It's a matter for those who work in Rosendale and who secured this taxpayers' money. We'll have to live with it. Whatever comes forward, we'll deal with it. We've dealt with it publicly quite strongly as well, and made it very, very clear publicly through my press releases that two projects could not coexist. So we just have to watch this space. I think for lots of reasons, I think this is a very historic evening last Tuesday, a very big milestone that has been achieved. And I'm sure there's huge challenges as I look out to the funding world to see what's out there. I remain very confident. I remain very positive and passionate about this development going forward. So I'm happy to take any questions if that's appropriate, Chair.
Yeah, certainly. Do you want questions now, or shall we leave them all till after?
Yeah, we'll do it now if you want while it's live.
If anybody's got any questions, either raise your hand on technology or speak up. Nobody, I can't see anybody, Mike. I'm going through the 3 screens I've got. No. Okay. Plenty of chance there. Right, Kath, would you like to continue, or Tracy? I'm not sure which.
Yeah, I'll continue. So 2021 went from one extreme to another, as we all know. We started off in January being closed, all the way through to mid-April when we opened the pubs. And then May, we opened the railway and gradually brought in eventually the diners, followed by events, until we ramped up until the end of the year when we had a successful Santa event. As such, our revenues throughout the year were in par with 2019. However, 1 million of that was through grants that we received and furlough monies that we got through the job retention scheme. But we do have to count that as other revenue as far as the accounts go. The accounts have closed for 2021, but they are not yet finalised. We've got quite a few things to go through. The one thing I can note is that the trading company that made the loss in 2020, the surplus that has been made in 2021 will cover that. So it'll be at least back on an even keel. Other points that are mentioned are also that we, at the end of 2021, so on the 31st December 2021, we repaid the remaining balance on the City of Wells loan. So we closed 2021 without that liability on our balance sheet. We also, just throughout the year, paid back the supporting loan that we got from the trust, which means that at the end of the year we had very little left owing. Throughout 2021, we have been trying to build up a reserves account for certain budgeted projects that we were expecting in 2022. Those include the City of Wells overhaul, if that goes ahead, the tyre changing on the carriages, the track relay, which has taken place and just been completed, And also we put monies away in case we were put into lockdown again. So we had a month's worth of running costs, fixed costs that we would have to incur if we were put in such a situation again. So now that we're in 2022, we'll start to draw down on those as appropriate, and then eventually build up what we need for 2023. So we're always looking ahead. Notes have been put out there to ask for comments from senior managers to see what's coming up for 2023, and then we can start building on budgets, etc. But as far as the overall year goes, it was successful in the end. Went from very difficult, not really sure what was happening, very difficult times in January where we weren't really sure where the next money was coming from, and to the end of the year where Santas went really well. So an absolutely massive thank you to everyone involved. I know everyone on here will be involved in some form or another in getting the railway back online and all the way through to the Santas again. So congratulations, guys. Shall I carry on? Investments. So investments that are ongoing and have recently taken place, probably since our last open forum. Obviously, we've had the track replacement that has happened in January, February. We have purchased some Santa decoration pieces, some key items, and we are planning to do more in the budget for this year, so that by the end of 2022 we have a much improved look as you walk into the station for our Santa customers, and improve the experience overall. We are looking at coach painting. We really understand that there's been a lot of deterioration throughout lockdown and through some of the coaches, because we don't have this at the minute, the building to store them in, so they are stored outside. Luckily that will change. The Ginty, there has been ongoing works to try and complete the Ginty. Lee's been very good in trying to get a fundraising page on there, and we've also put some monies aside ourselves to get to the place where we can get it back on the rails. Some of you will be aware of the new EPOS system we have in place in Bury and across the online system. We are now extending that out. We've purchased this week, or last week should I say, the hardware for the outstations, which we will be receiving before too long and be able to start rolling out there. Carriage and wagon, so the staging in the carriage and wagon was needing replacing. Whilst we were doing that, we also replaced the track in there and redid the track and made it more, replaced the concrete, etc. So I did a full job so that it's back up to scratch. We have on the cards and on as of board on Friday, and a previous board meeting actually, but the track side is going to have a little bit of money spent on it to try and get it a bit more into the condition it should be. So there are plans for this to start in May time, so it will be closed for a week or so, depending on what the surveyors say they need doing. And the length of time to do the project. This will include things like improving some of the kitchen equipment, a bit of a refresh in the toilets that are on platform 2, amongst actually just redoing the inside of the trackside bar itself. And the other thing that we've brought on board the last 6 months or so is the complimentary food offer for our volunteers when they are working on the railway. This is going to continue. This is brought down straight from board level that it is an absolute must-have, and it seems to be going well, and hopefully that will continue that way. That's it from me. Over to Tracy.
Okay, it's my number one favourite subject.
Sorry, Tracy. Sorry, Tracy. Kath, just before you go on, a question has come up And Mike on the chat, which you won't have seen, Mike Kelly has responded, but I think I'd like to just have a little bit more clarity to it. The question was, has there been preliminary contact with HLF to give grounds for optimism? I actually don't know what HLF means, and I am sure that most people on the screen don't either. So can somebody explain that to us?
HLF is the Heritage Lottery Fund.
All right, thank you.
The plans, what do you say? Grant for optimism.
If grounds for optimism was the question, and Mike has responded.
Right.
I'll tell you what Mike said. A discussion has been held with HLF with a site visit and advice taken, albeit before COVID struck. So it's 2 years or so ago or more since they came. But HLF did not click in my brain what it stood for. And now I understand. So unless you want to say anything else about that, we can move on.
No, that's in a nutshell.
Right, thanks very much. So is it Tracy now? Sorry, Tracy, for interrupting you.
Yeah, the top and bottom of it is coal. It's our bread and butter, it's our fuel supply, and it is in a very, very serious situation. And I've been having kittens over the weekend about this, because everywhere you looked, there was a spectacular scene of locomotives running up and down, and they were all consuming coal. I found £5 worth of it just in the front of the track on platform 3. However, the situation is mightily serious. It's threatening everything that we do and what we believe in. But the situation is, previously, coal was being imported from Russia and Colombia. The Russian was all right, but it was smoky. The Colombian, you had 50-50 luck on whether it burnt your fire bars out or it didn't burn at all. So it was pot luck. The Russian supply has totally gone, none whatsoever. So no coal can come out of Russia. It can't come into any dock in the UK because the UK is not allowed to accept any ships from Russia. End of. There's one dock somewhere in the channel with a load of coal on. It's just being turned back, going back. Previously, we have paid £220 a tonne, and the world commodity price for coal today, at the close of play, it actually was later than this, was £435 a tonne, which knocks up our coal bill to about $500,000 a year. In terms of UK coal, there is none that hasn't been already allocated to either a heritage railway or user of coal. Hargreaves and CPL are looking for alternative places globally to look for coal to get it in the country. The USA seems to be a favourable option. What the quality of coal is like and whether it's suitable for us is yet to be seen. Fossifran, which is basically where we were getting the Welsh steam coal from, are in discussions. They've actually shut and they've finished extracting because their wash plant and grading facility broke down a few weeks back, and basically their license is due to expire. So UK government have been asked to help the Heritage Railway movement by extending the licence at Foss, and also Hargreaves have asked if there's any coal left on the top at Foss, they would like to take it and grade it themselves. So that's an option. There's also a request for loan funding through government to prepay for shipments, because when you're buying coal, you have to pay for it up front before it's actually even landed at the dock. And that's a massive undertaking for Heritage Railways to do. It's not simple at all. And grant funding has been asked for the rapid development of eco coal or biofuel alternatives. Now, these are massively controversial, but the top and bottom of it are, we've been offered some eco coal for a trial. It's made out of 50% biomass, which is made out of olive bits, and 50% what we would have preferably called once upon a time in Yorkshire as coal slag, caked together and cooked, and it's like a briquette, but that's £500 a tonne at the moment. The price isn't the issue, it's the availability. So if we have coal, it is no longer that mass commodity that we once had that you could simply burn. It is absolutely precious, but this is massively serious. It will be discussed with the MP and also through Parliament, but this is threatening everything that we believe in. Granted, we can't help the circumstances of the horrific events in Russia and the Ukraine, but this is the situation we are in. And unless there is a reversal of a planning decision in the UK, which is basically not to extract coal, this is a serious threat to everything that we do. So we've asked Lee and the team to go away and look at how we can, should we say, minimize the use of it? Because what we've got effectively this weekend, we've bought 250 tons of coal. It's coming over 9 weeks in 2 lorries a week. It's our coal. We are not selling it to anybody. It is ours, because this will actually, if used sparingly, get us to August. But that means we've got to radically look at everything that we do. And steam could eventually be very much a high days and holidays. I'm not saying it will be, but it is buying us time over the next of March and the next April to actually see how the world commodities settles down and what actually government action is taken to actually keep heritage railways going. So it's a massive issue. The likes and scenes that we saw at the weekend, I am very reserved that they're actually going to be quite as luxurious and as lovely. And it was a spectacle. It was brilliant. But my goodness, this is a scarce resource. This is really seriously black diamonds now. So on that front, be very careful what you do with it. The ovoids, I'm going to wait for Mr. Valentine to mention this one, but the ovoids, the eco coal, the maximum size of that is 7 centimetres by 4 centimetres. Now, if you think about City of Wells, if you're doing fuel transfer on that, it'll go straight through into the ash pan because the fire bars are just not going to have it. I've put bigger ice cubes in my gin, so let that be a warning to you. Eco coal, potentially it will come and we'll have a try with it. At the minute, it is a juicy price, but we've just got to be mindful exactly what we're doing with it. Right, next.
Tracy, could you comment on what the HRA are doing about this? We've been asked by somebody whose name has just missed it, but if you can comment about the HRAs.
Well, the HRA took the action on Monday to ask government for the extension of the licence on FOSS, and also the agreements for loan agreements for prepaid shipments, and also grant funding for the eco coal. However, I think there's going to have to be a bit more courting and dining on Banks's on whether actually anything's left in the Northumberland, because they did ask for planning permission for that last year and got turned down. So unless, I don't know whether the government's got the appetite for any planning decisions, but we are absolutely, this is very scarce stuff.
Lee has come in with some comment. I don't know whether it's a question or a comment. Yes, Lee, you're on mute. That's good. Yeah.
It's just to add, it's obviously coal is a big issue, but another big issue that's starting to appear is cost of fuel, red diesel for a start. That's today, as of today, it's about 97 pence a litre, which is the highest it's ever been. And I can see that carrying on, well, certainly while the this situation's going on in Ukraine. So again, it's one of these things we need to be mindful of. With diesel use, but if we're having to limit the amount of coal we're using on steam engines, we're going to be using diesels more. So it's going to be a very careful balancing act to try and keep us on an even keel, and obviously make sure the train, when we do run trains, we try and do it as cost effectively as possible to make sure that we don't run them at a loss consistently, especially, and some of the events planned in the year in terms of steam, certainly with steam locomotives, may be scaled back depending on coal availability.
Thanks, Lee. Okay, Tracy, you want to continue?
Well, that's me done for me on coal. Next one, please. It's over to Lee with traction and rolling stock, because this is really the exciting bit.
Right, evening everybody. Right, I've just done a bit of an update of what we've been doing for the last few months since the last open forum. Can you move on to the next slide, please? So this is the new carriage and wagon staging. As you can see, it's much improved from the rickety wooden pallet wood contraption we used to have in there. Obviously, we've included safety barriers and proper walkways across there, and it's going to make the working environment in the carriage and wagon a much better place. Cass going mad with his slides. Go back, go back. But hang on, she's lost it now. Gone.
Sorry, I'm just gonna have to reshare again. Sorry. Clicking issues. Let me go back. Escape. Hold the line caller. There we go. Right. Sorry. There you go.
I misread again now.
Can you see that okay?
Yeah. So, so make a much safer environment for people to work in. There is some plans to actually fit some along the edges, certain points for plugging in electrical supplies and air lines. So there'll be nothing trailing across the walkways and creating a trip hazard. So that'll come on over this year. But a hell of an improvement. All the work was done by the paid staff and the volunteers in carriage and wagon. We were quoted by an external company 2 years ago to do this work. They quoted, there was one at 110,000, there was another one at 140,000. I think we've done this for about 60, with the paid staff elements in there, obviously with the staff wages in there as well. So and plus, and the previous quotes never included the concrete in the middle. Now we've concreted it also. It's been a very worthwhile exercise because we're now able to keep the place clean and tidy, remove the fire risk and the debris on the floor, which weren't easy to clean up. The P-Way, somebody said the P-Way did the floor. Yes, they did. Thank you to the P-Way department. So moving on, please, Kath. Right, essentially, obviously, most of the activities over the last few weeks and months has been running maintenance of the fleet. So at the moment, we're on with the motion repairs to 80097, reboring the valves on the Great Western Tank 5643, which has been paid for by the owning group, and we're just assisting with some labour, which will pay us back in kind with a couple of running days for free, I would expect. So the standard tank hopefully will be back in service for both, I would say, certainly by Easter. We're well on with the LOI saddle tank, the pug. The boilers just had a hydraulic test and had the first steam tests. It's now going in the frames now to be connected up and start the reassembly process. The new water tank's been made at Barn Shores and been delivered back. They're getting a lot of false rivets made so they can stick them to the tank to make it look like a riveted tank like they used to be. Work's proceeding on the Ginty boiler, and I think there's a picture of that later on in the slideshow. Work's upgrade, and you see we've put a new lifting gear caging for all the lifting tackle to be kept in there safely. We had a lot of issues with lifting gear getting damaged because it was right next to the running rails on road 3. And sometimes we got in some slings getting run over. So we decided to move it all over there, and plus you can lift all the heavy equipment up with the crane rather than manhandling it and doing your backing. So health and safety tick box there. Unfortunately, over the course of the winter, the storms haven't been particularly kind to the building. and we've had a lot of roof repairs and roof damage done. Unfortunately, we're having to reschedule and rearrange some of the roof work we did have planned this year to cover getting the urgent repairs done. Next slide, please, Kath. Right, as some of you have probably seen, and I apologise to the multiple ops messages you got when I put this out initially. That's because it was a fault on the system. As of this weekend, there's a change to working practices within the traction rolling stock engineering department. Essentially, we will have an engineering duty manager on duty from 8 o'clock in the morning to 4:30. So we're basically asking the volunteer groups if they're covering any of the activities shown there in the bullet points, to just let us know in advance of 2 or 3 days ahead, so we can make sure that the equipment's there to use and it's fit for purpose. That whoever's intended to use the equipment is actually qualified and competent to use said equipment, and to make sure that nobody else is already using it, and that interrupts their work. So it's obviously our duty of care to make sure everybody goes home with all the fingers and toes intact and the rest of it. So, you know, we appreciate everybody's coordination and response in getting this up and running, because it will be a bit of a trial and error situation to start off with until it gets established, and there will be some tweaks to be made. But there's an email address there to send the email inquiries to regarding your work, and there's an on the day number to ring as well, which is shown below. Next slide, please, Kath. So into carriage and wagon. So we've got we're playing catch up to a large degree, because we effectively lost 5 months of last year because the staging work in carriage and wagon, or 4 months certainly. So we've got a long process of catch up now. We've got 4350 to complete. There's a couple of pictures there on the screen of the new toilets being panelled, which we panelled them out in plastic rather than the original hardboard. The reason why we're using plastic is it does deteriorate with time, because it gets water ingress into it, and it's easy, and it starts looking naff, and it's not as easy to keep clean. But the plastic surfacing will be nice and easy to keep clean. Obviously, winter maintenance we've done on the dining train. Next year, unfortunately, we've identified that the dining trains will need a prolonged period out of service, because both the kitchen car and the generator car need extensive bodywork and repairs. So there won't be any dining trains for certainly till probably late March next year, because of this. We'll try and speed it up as much as we can, but it depends on resource. We're bringing the next in for bodywork is the brake first corridor we bought from John Sagar with the old well support coach, which is going to have bodywork and a repaint, hopefully ready for the diesel gala this year. We're also allocated resources to try and turn around a number of vehicles for painting this year. We've just got to hopefully agree over the next 2 or 3 weeks how we're going to do that, whether that's going to be additional resource or paying contractors to come in to do it. We've also got planned toilet tidy up plan, which is basically clean up of the toilets on the trains, liquor paint, doing any trimming repairs and bits and pieces just to tidy them up so they look a bit better to the general public. And then we've obviously got the new tyres, which I'm waiting for West Coast Railways to give me a price, even though they have got some in stock. So we can actually get some ordered in and get some new tyres fitted, because a lot of our coaches now are on literally scrap tyres and they need replacing. Next slide, please. Right, so hopefully in June, we're hoping to hold a bit of an event to celebrate the London, Lancashire Yorkshire Railway LNWR merger. Again, this is one of these events that may end up being changed depending on the coal situation, so we'll have to just see how this pans out. But obviously, we're hoping to at least have 3 LNY locals running, plus the London North Western Tank from the West Valley. We did also request for 957 to come, but unfortunately it's required for their vintage trains. we've got a little bit of a L&Y goods train we're going to put together, which will be operating around Bury Station. We'll probably have some shunting demos at Castlecroft, and there's obviously going to be some trade stands and information. And there's probably some other things as well. We're probably going to try and set up with in line with the Bury Transport Museum and maybe the Lancashire and Yorkshire Society Trust, etc., etc. So that's pretty much the TNRS update for me. Any questions?
Yes, Lee, there was one question came in pretty early on, and it was from Paul Warburton. He said, did Paul, I think he means Paul Bonello, look into the HVO fuel?
He did, and A, his cost implications on that is quite significant, and B, it's a fuel source that doesn't like standing in fuel tanks. It's very susceptible to basically bacteria growing in the fuel and making it naff. So a lot of our diesel fleet spends month to year standing around doing not a lot. So it won't, I don't think it'd be suitable for our needs or purpose.
Okay, thanks. And Mike Kelly did comment that we've also had new roller shutter doors installed on carriage and wagon, was it?
No, it's the loco works. Yeah, we've had
Yep.
there's 4 new doors gone in the loco works, mainly because the wooden doors at the front are getting absolutely knackered, and then there was more a safety concern that they're going to fall down and hurt somebody. So they are basically going to be removed in the next couple of weeks. I think we'll retain 2 as patterns, just in, obviously at some point when the building's refurbished, I would imagine the wooden doors will go back on. But we'll probably retain the roller shutters there as an extra security barrier as well. So belt and braces.
Great stuff, thanks. Anybody got any other questions to put to Lee? Nothing's coming up on my screen. Okay, thanks very much, Lee. Back then, presumably to Tracy or Kath, or have we finished?
Yeah, well, basically that's the resume of what's happening and what has happened. I mean, there's been loads of other events, activities and occurrences that's been going on since we last spoke in November, but really it's basically open to any questions.
Okay, I've got 4 questions which I'm going to put onto chat. So if anybody wants to look at their chat, they can read. I will also read them out as well. The first one's from John Allen, who's one of our gods. If the HOPS ID cards are to be used for working members to prove their eligibility for free travel, what is to be put in place for their partners to prove their eligibility for free travel when not accompanied by the working member? This would also include access to the Transport Museum. Previously, the 2-part travel pass covered this situation.
Basically, if you are or you require a partner's pass, which I'm sure plenty of people do, what we are asking, and Rory's going to send out an email, is send us a photograph. They will go into a separate section within HOPS and an ID card will be issued, sent to your home address, and that will cover you for your travel, your discount and access to the museum.
Fine, I think that's a good answer. I don't know whether John Allen wants to come back on that. I don't know whether he's here this evening. I've not seen him yet. Not showing up. Okay, right. Thanks, Tracy. The second one is from Jimmy Tew. It's great to be back on the railway as a TTI. However, I was frustrated by the card machine not operating despite going through the normal procedures of checking papers, etc. However, GPS signals seem to be being non-existent. Is there a problem? As most people are paying by card, this is an issue. I don't know whether Martin's around tonight.
Queen of the card machines, Lady Catherine.
No, Kath?
Yeah.
Any answers?
Well, effectively, we are deep in the process of reviewing our entire network, and Wi-Fi is a thing that's on the agenda on there. But we are still in the hands of the GPS gods and the GPS signal in the area, wherever along the line. I'm guessing he's talking about TTI stuff, TTI machines whilst he's up and down the line. We are at the hands of those gods. We try and do the best that we can. As I say, the IT whole IT network is being reviewed as we speak, from beginning to end, and it is in the process. So please bear with us. We're trying to do as much as we can, but yeah, that's all I can comment on for now.
Thanks, Kath. I was TTI about 3 weeks ago at the Diesel Gala and didn't use the credit card machine because I didn't sell a ticket all day long. The booking officers had done a wonderful job, and the pre-sales, everybody had tickets when I got on the train. The next question is from Margaret Gardner. She doesn't know who to address it to. Whoever feels like wanting to answer it can do so. What more can working members do to promote the ELR? Has anybody got any thoughts about this? Nobody's coming in. How we can promote the ELR?
What's our social media presence like?
The question was, what's the social media presence like? We have a social media presence. Those of you, I tend to use Facebook and Twitter, but there are other ones as well. I don't think we have anything on TikTok that I know of, or on any of the other ones I'm certainly not aware of. It should be something that perhaps we can investigate. There are discussions taking place with people from Bury College, and they may be able to help us out in on this modern technology that some of us have left behind, or it's left us behind. It's something we could perhaps look into, I think, unless anybody here is au fait with the social media and wants to take on the responsibility.
Mike, seeing as it was my question, maybe a bit of explanation as to where this came from. Some time ago, long before COVID, I went on a rail tour, one of those, I'm not going to mention the company, but they have restored railway engines, and they take to places like Stratford and Mallaig and Edinburgh and Scarborough. And if you're prepared to pay a huge amount of money, you get a reasonable meal, but it's beautifully restored. And apart from the pleasure of traveling to a place that you might not normally go to and having a reasonable meal and being on a train and seeing things you don't normally see, you actually get to meet really interesting people. And sitting across the aisle was a party of four, two couples, who were having a whale of a time. It was 9:30 and they'd already got their own bottles of wine open. They were having a great time. But when we asked why, how did you get to hear about this? Why are you here? They said they'd had a leaflet drop. They'd never been on a train before. They weren't train enthusiasts. And they just had this leaflet that said, book a table of 4, 10% discount, meal out, day in Scarborough, have a great time. And they were absolutely hooked. And I sometimes think maybe we're missing a trick here. Maybe we need to be a little bit more imaginative than social media. I stay in a lot of hotels as part of my job, and in the lobby there's always leaflets. I have never, even within the local area, seen a leaflet for the East Lancs Railway. I go to the hairdressers and they say, are you doing anything interesting? Yeah, I'm going for a meal on a steam train at Bury. Oh, do they do that? How many times do you see on Facebook people posting, lived in Bury all my life, never been to the railway? I just think that maybe there are small things that people can do to get the message out. You know, put a couple of dozen leaflets in your suitcase when you're staying in bed and breakfast in the Lake District, and ask the hotel if you can put it in the lobby. I think we need to be a little bit more reaching out to people about the fabulous railway that we have. People just don't, they think it's just there. It's just a railway. If you go for a meal in Automatic, they've got pictures of the railway on the wall. And when you say, is this the railway down the road? They go, yeah, it's the railway down the road. But there's no leaflets. How do you find out more? Well, you're going to have to go down the road and ask. You know, I think perhaps we can make it a bit easier for people to access us.
Mark Hill is not available this evening, unfortunately. but I have sent him the question, and if he does come back to me with anything, we will make sure it goes out on Hops as a response.
I can try and answer this because I'm pretty close to marketing, and I'm also, we were with our marketing agency yesterday, and top and bottom of it is the world has moved from printed material, and granted the vast majority of our sales go through electronic digital channels. So that's where we focus our attention, because we've got a small pot of money because Kath won't give us any more. So in that, we're going to go where we spend for the best result. But you're absolutely right in terms of what people can actually do to enhance that. And that is, every now and again, once in a blue moon, I'll stay over in the Premier Inn at Bury and have a look, see what we can take, actually put the material there. But also, I think one of the big challenges, and I'd like to put this forward to everybody, if you can find one person within your field of friends, of influencers, I think the biggest pleasure and the biggest joy is actually doing voluntary work. And not only do I do voluntary work, I do it for another charity as well. I don't know where I get the time from, but I do. And it is massively rewarding. And I think that is the gift that is within us to encourage other people to get involved, not only to love and share our passion, because let's face it, we are all total railway people, is actually share that joy with somebody else. And it's massively rewarding, just that in its own right. So I think, yes, we've got the material available. Granted, in an ideal world, I would not print anything anymore and it would be all be digital because I'm really stingy. But the avenues that people generally we get a maximum result from are now digital channels. That said, we've got loads of pieces of work coming up with the digital people about influencers, and that are people that go around visiting various different attractions and are followed by thousands or millions of other people on YouTube or various other channels. And yeah, they've been coming to the railway, and they are still coming to the railway and actually putting their information, their reviews, their almost advocacy alive and out there in cyberspace.
Okay, thanks, Tracy. I think we could argue about those sort of things all night long. Those people reading through the chat section will see lots of points being raised up on there. Just changing tack very slightly, one of the questions come up again from Jimmy Chu. Nobody's commented about Castleton. Has there been any developments, Mike? If you'd like to comment.
Castleton has struggled because of COVID. The plans are, those of you who understand the jargon, there are plans for 3 and 4 to be conducted by Network Rail. Obviously, that's been held up because of COVID. I would say Rochdale Council are very much behind getting a steam train into Castleton. These things take time, of course. Network Rail are busy with other projects, and I think once they are able to do the 3 and 4, which will be a detailed assessment of the options. The 2 options that are still on the table is a steam train into the Network Rail platform currently there, and the other one is, those of you know the area, is bisected by a bridge, Manchester Road Bridge, and the options are really refurbish the bridge so the steam train can go safely into the platform, replace the bridge completely, and the other option is a platform on the south side of Manchester Road Bridge. I think the levelling up money is in play. I think Rochdale are keen to forward Castleton as the new Ramsbottom and regenerate the area, creating a whole host of leisure amenities. There's a lot of housing planned for that particular area. So yes, I still think it's very much alive. It suffered badly because of COVID.
Thanks, Mike. I have one more question that was sent in previous to this evening from Nigel Barnes, which is now out on chat, I hope. Has it come out? Yep. I'll read it out. The chairman's address published in the quarterly magazine says that the trust has loaned the company monies to pay off the debt associated with City of Wells. The trust doesn't have income. The grant has to be paid back somehow, question mark. I think we've probably already had that answer anyway this evening. On the second part of the question, if it costs £450 a day to hire a JCB, but the cost of repairing our own JCB is 2,500, that's 5 days worth. Shouldn't we be fixing the JCB we already own? I'm not quite sure who's going to be responsible for answering. Oh, Mike's going to come back. Okay,
Mike can have the first one, I'll have the second.
Okay, Mike.
I just explain about the question. It's clearly misunderstanding how loans were established in the first place. Can we just go back to City of Wells loan? There was a funding launch, which was very encouraging. The company borrowed the balance, the purchase price, with Lombard, which is a subsidiary of NatWest. Okay, that loan has been cleared, and therefore we now fully own City of Wells. Trust had no involvement in the City of Wells arrangement. Trust loan was as a result of the cancellation of Santa Specials in 2020, which left us with a financial challenge. Let's put it no more than that. That loan has also been paid back following a grant from Bury Council. So those two loans no longer exist. City of Wells is now part of the railway and on our asset register. And again, has nothing to do with the trust. Tracy can pick up the JCB.
Thanks, Tracy.
The basic details of the JCB is absolutely it needs repairing, and we're on with that. We'll allocate that money. But also with the JCB comes competencies, and we need the competencies to be in date for the operative of the JCB. And at this moment in time, until those are renewed, we're going to have to hire somebody in till they're through the competencies. But as fast as we can, we'll get them through that.
Okay, I think that's answered. I've not seen Nigel on the screen at all tonight. I don't know whether he is here, but I have no other questions at all, unless anybody wants to come in late on with any comments, any questions. Oh,
has anybody got any alternative of something to burn apart from coal?
I think Alex wants to say something.
I have to apologise. I've forgotten to call upon Mark Roseberry, who are you here, Mark?
I am here. I'm ready to go.
Okay, Mark. Mark's got a comment to make about a section of the PUA team that's called groundwork, and basically they are cutting trees and grass and other things to do with the ground surfaces. So, Mark, you want to make a statement?
Yeah, it was just because when I'm going around the railway, I always get pulled and dragged to one side about trees and branches hitting trains, and we've mentioned that we're going to be repainting coaches, but if trees are hitting them and damaging paintwork, it's pointless. So an update on what we've done. So as we all know, over the recent months we've been hit with a number of storms. These have affected the railway and operations, so a number of volunteers from off track as well as paid staff from PUA have been out at short notice clearing up on several occasions, getting us up and running. We've assessed the trees between Hayward and Bury. The eagle-eyed amongst you may have noticed that we've put spray paint on a number of them, which indicate which ones we need to trim and which ones we need to remove. It's not all about chopping trees down. We've got in the region of 300 new trees thanks to Woodland Trust. So these are going to be planted on the Hayward line around the scrapyard, which is just before the 66 motorway, when you go in towards Hayward. It's the one that set on fire a couple of years ago. So it'll provide habitat for wildlife, as well as help screen the scrapyard when you're going on the train. We've invested in training and now have a number of volunteers who are trained to use various sprays and equipment. So that's going to reduce our dependence on outside contractors. And Kathy's going to be happy to know that's going to save us money as well. So when the weeds start coming up, we'll be out cutting back vegetation and spraying. And if you want to join us to help us do this, contact me via Hops.
I have to say a massive, massive, massive thank you to Mark and the Groundworks team, because we wouldn't have been up at half term, or I mean, we've had Storm Gladys, Storm this, that and the other, and you've been fantastic. Even out in snow, torrential rain, you've been utterly amazing. So thank you very much.
Yep, thanks, Mark. I've got 3 other points to make. Joanne Crumpton, whom most people know, has sent in a very interesting question. It's quite a long question. I did send you an email earlier on this evening, Joanne, which you obviously not picked up. The question is long, and it's about the structure and the operation and the way that the board of directors is managed. And the question is actually on chat if anyone wants to read it through. Mike wants to, sorry, who's that? Mike Kelly wants to respond to the question by an answer on Hops. So the intention is to put the whole question and the answer on Hops there, so that everybody can see it. And if there are any more questions out of that, then we can pursue it at a later date. It's an interesting question. You can see it on chat at the moment because she's put it up there, but it's a long one. And there are a number of points that's made. So Mike's going to respond to that to everybody. So you'll all have a chance to see what the question was. Even the people who are not here tonight will have a question to see have a chance to see the question and to see the response. I know that Nigel Barnes has got his hand up as well. And there was somebody else I've missed out. Let's go back to Nigel and hear what he has to say. His question was about the JCB and about the loans that Mike and Tracy have answered earlier on. Yes, Nigel.
Yeah, well, they've been answered, so fair enough. An answer's an answer. I've got so Mr. Roseberry's saying about the tree cutting. Some comments from volunteers has prompted the next question. Will it be volunteers or contractors that are doing all this tree felling that's mentioned in the magazine? Apparently, we've got to close our eyes if we love trees. So there's going to be a lot of tree felling. Is that going to be done by contractors or volunteers?
Mark?
Yeah, I can answer that. The majority of it is done by volunteers. There are some trees that are beyond our capabilities as volunteers. So those will be done by contractors. Last year, I actually managed to get some professional tree surgeons in, and they did a day for free, and they actually joined the society. So that saved us probably about £1,000. So I'm hoping that I can sort of pull in favours again.
So if I encourage the chainsaw users that approach me and said they've not been trained, but have been asked, have asked to be trained, where should I point them? But these are volunteers with chainsaw experience, but can't use the chainsaw on the railway because they're not signed off and would like to be. How do they get involved so we can have fewer contractors and more volunteers chopping trees down?
If you send them in my direction, I'll be able to discuss that with them. But we can't have anybody using chainsaws that's not trained or qualified, because if you have an accident with the chainsaw, it'll be serious.
Obviously, but they've been doing it all their life. But I shall send them in your direction.
Okay, thanks, Nigel. Thanks, Mark. I want to just reiterate a comment that's come from Sean Lee, I think. I was away last week and wasn't here for the launch of the pub on the train concept, and Sean's commented in chat that his aim is to bring the one that was introduced last week in the bar carriage up to the standards of the one that's in the Keighley and Worth Valley Railway. So watch this space, guys and girls. I had a look inside that carriage on Tuesday and I was very impressed, I must admit. Those of you who've not seen this first class, well, it's not just first class, it's luxury class. It's much better than I've seen on any other train, I think. I don't think I've seen one as comfortable as that. And it actually can take more people than the Obo, which is a point that ought to be made out to somebody, I think, in terms of renting them out. You can get 28 seated inside that bar carriage, which is more than you get in the Obo. I think I've gone through everything now. Oh no, Alex Karimi, who has been around for the last 3 days driving one or two things. I can't see on my screen, Alex, but if you want to unmute yourself and make a statement or ask a question.
Hello,
Oh,
everyone.
there you are, there you are.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
I would like to say thank you for the 2 days. Much better organization with lunch. It was done by Maggie from the kitchen. Fish and chips and everything, bacon butties and all that. That was all very good. And I had some very good crews with me. And I would like to try and keep the same people instead of changing them all around. And everything was fine. The only thing was also that timetable and these and the speed restrictions. We were down 20 minutes late today, and then we only could go to Rami and back. Otherwise, I couldn't be joining you now. But everything was good, and I'm coming back on the 11th to have a go at that Great Western 1501. So I'm going to be going back home tomorrow and come back on the 10th.
Well, thank you, Alex, for that feedback, and I'm pleased that you've been fed and watered as well.
Yeah,
thank you.
And about the certificates, I would like to have them and signed by everyone who has been with me those 2 days. And I hope that somebody can, or you can give them to me when I come back.
We certainly will.
Next Friday.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Yes, it was good to talk to you yesterday.
Yeah.
So, folks, I've come to the end of all of the input that I know of. I've looked through chat again. There's nothing outstanding, I don't think, nothing seriously. I apologise to Joanne Crompton. She's not come up with a comment. I hope she's happy with the response that Mike's going to give. And we can come back to it again. It's an ongoing point about how the board operates and so on, if there are any further questions.
I'm quite happy about that. Sorry, Mike. I'm quite happy with that. I hadn't picked your email up from Hops, so that's why I've put it in the chat. Okay. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's fine. Mike Kelly wants to say something.
I'd like to just spend a few minutes talking about hops, really. I think I'm disappointed overall that there's still people who don't like hops and not prepared to use it. I'm not so sure that's a situation that can last forever, because as we know, to our cost, before hops, we were roundly criticised by the Office of Road and Rail for our record keeping. I think since we've had hops, it's unthinkable now not to have hops. It's been so important to the modernisation of record keeping, communications, and literally helping us to run a safe railway. When I keep hearing people moaning about hops and they don't like it and this, that and the other, well, I don't think there's an alternative, if I'm being honest. And I think Rory struggles to encourage people to come onto hops. But I think overall the message is clear. We need hops. It's to industry standard. Most of the heritage railways now use hops. I think the Office of Road and Rail like hops. I'm sure there are other digital platforms that could do the same thing, but we as a company board have invested into hops. The ID card system is here to stay. The signing in and signing out is here to stay. we need to have evidence that we run a safe railway. When inspectors call and look at our systems, or when they come to audit systems, they automatically look at a system like HOPS. It would be unthinkable that our railway would not have some kind of centralized record keeping communications tools that HOPS offers us. So I would encourage everybody who is not in HOPS to contact Rory and start, get signed up, send your photographs in. Don't be camera shy, but we do see HOPS absolutely central to the future of our safety culture going forward. So just a plea to support Rory. More people needed. There's still several hundred who've not signed up to HOPS. So just a plea to help Rory to get this system fully 100% capacity, doing the job it's supposed to do, which is to help us run a safe railway.
Thank you, Michael. Yes. So all it remains for me is to say thank you for your attendance and your forbearance tonight, and all the people who participated from, well, I'm not going to name all the names, but you know who they are. Thank you very much to everybody. We will have another open forum in 2 or 3 months' time when there's something more to say. I'm pretty sure. So all it remains for me to say is good night, and thank you for your attendance tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Mike, there's a couple of hands up.
Sorry, whereabouts? I can't see them.
David and Tracy, I think, was going to comment, but Tracy's hand down. And Nigel, yeah.
David Leyland, do you want to say something, David? Sorry, I didn't see it.
Just a quickie, Mike. In particular, in response to Alex Karimi, what a superb supporter of the railway he is. And it is down to us to make sure that he does get the appropriate attention for the amount of help that he's given us over the years. And I'm sure he'll continue to give us that help, particularly when I've bent his back about something else that I might have a chat with him in due course. Secondly, what a fantastic thing to see tonight with so many different people on here and the explanations that are going on. I just want to point one out, which was a photograph or something that was in Carriage and Wagon, which showed one of the dining coaches, which is next in line for refurbishment. If I look 6 feet to my left, I've got £1,000 worth of curtain material on the floor, which my wife will be doing over the next few weeks. That's the sort of thing that goes on behind the scenes. And it's fantastic that they all put that in. They don't want anything in return, just a bit of acknowledgement every now and then of what they're doing. And that's where I think we need to push forward. We've come through COVID, we've done superbly well. Let's get on and make it a superb railway. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Nigel Barnes, did you want to come back?
That's a no. He's waving his hand no. He's fine.
Oh, was he saying no? I thought I did say okay.
No, thanks.
No, all right. I can't see anybody. Oh, David's come back again, David. No, that was an accident. No. Okay, I've said good night. I really do mean it this time. And thanks to Kath for the organisation and setting up the link, and for people's attendance at a very short notice. I have to say, it was only Monday that I managed to send out the invitation. So it's very good to see you all, and I look forward to seeing you all next time. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you very much, Mike.
Okay, thanks, Kath.
Thank you. See you soon.